Right. So by now you can tell that I'm really interested in Tai Chi. I've been doing martial arts, since I was young. And as my body got progressively beaten up, I moved towards becoming a physical therapist. And then as I was a physical therapist for many years, that started to beat up my body a bit as well as I was doing lots of manual therapy. That that pushed me into becoming a Feldenkrais practitioner, which is a little more subtle and doesn't require as much force in order to affect a positive response in a person. So, and ultimately I shifted from martial arts, for my taekwondo and karate, kickboxing to aikido, and finally to tai chi. But as a physical therapist, my primary interest is to get people to learn these principles and then integrate them into your daily life. Yeah, I really don't care if a person learns the Tai Chi form. It's it's the principles themselves, the knowledge that you can get from these principles that will basically affect change throughout your daily life. And it starts from the moment you wake up, how you roll to get out of bed, how you stand up from bed, how you drink your first cup of water, to how you end your day, how you brush your teeth. Throughout the day, you've got all these moments where you can become more self-aware. You can stop, you can pause. You can notice your breathing. You can notice the ground. You can notice your frame. How is your alignment relative to gravity, right? How are your thoughts? You can take these pauses throughout the day that will help to center you and make you feel more present and ultimately connect you more with that part of yourself that's kind of always there, but we're oftentimes distracted from because of all the stupid stuff that we end up doing in life, right? So I didn't talk about the head yet because I feel that most people are already existing too much in their heads. Our egos, our monkey mind, our thoughts are constantly going in our heads. We may not be aware of it, but when you turn your attention to your thoughts, typically the mind is going, right? So in Tai Chi, we would kind of think of the structure of the head balancing on your axis, right? So physical therapy as well, right? So you basically want to think your head should be able to balance on a little point, and it should be free, right? It should be free to go this way, sideways, and turn, right? You shouldn't be rigid in any kind of posture that you hold, right? So I'm going to think of the center of my head in this case as the point that's between my fingers. If I stick my fingers in my ears where my fingers connect, that's the center of my head, right? So I want the center of my head to somehow feel like it's balancing over that point. In Tai Chi and yoga, lots of other methods, we'll talk about suspending the head from the crown, right? So if you take your hands from your ears and you just go straight up to the top of your head where they connect, that's the crown. And if you have hair, I don't have much on the top right now, but if you just gently pull, you have this sense that you could suspend your head by a strand of your hair, right? And that's something that's stated in these classical writings of Tai Chi. But people, I think, get too caught up with trying to keep the head in that position, right? So what you could instead feel sometimes is that you could sink the body, right? So you could feel the weight of the body as a means to float the head, right? So you can think of it in two ways. So it's not just your head separate from your body, right? So you also have to be mindful that you don't do one of these things. Physical therapists do a lot of this stuff where they teach their patients to tuck the chin in. but then it leaves this impression for the patient that they should be sucking their chin back throughout the day. And what you end up doing is you end up flattening the natural curve of the cervical spine, right? Which over time could lead to premature arthritis. It's the same thing people are doing with their core musculature. People are holding it tense, right? We're sucking it in or doing whatever, and that's not natural either, right? It creates dysfunction in your breathing, right? So just go ahead and tighten up your core if it's not tight, and just notice how that your breathing gets more restricted, right? You end up breathing more up into the chest, shoulders, and neck, right? You let it go a little bit, soften the belly, and you'll start to feel that you get some movement in there as the air comes in. Your diaphragm can drop down, right? So that you can get some expansion in there, right? So it's not to say that head is not important. It's just that you don't want to make it the most important thing in your practice. It should be one of those things that you occasionally consciously regulate, but then you let it go into the subconscious regulation, right? Just as you're breathing, it's important, but you're going to become neurotic if you spend much of your time attempting to regulate your breath, right? Because just in the mere attempt to observe your breath, you're already going to change the quality of the breathing pattern. So it's good to notice what it can do, but then you have to let it go at some point and allow your subconscious mind and nervous system take care of you, right? So just basics for the head, centered over that point. It can feel like there's a very slight drawing back of the head. So you might feel a little bit of increased tone in the front of the neck, right? And if you watch my videos, you'll see that oftentimes I have a forward head because that's a habitual pattern that I've worked with over the years, but it still can improve, right? So you can have a little bit of muscle tone here to balance out the tendency of doing this, right? So you want to be more like that. But then you want to check and feel that your head feels relaxed, right? So your neck should feel relaxed as you turn it, right? Go up and down, nodding your head side to side or tilting, right? So that's basically kind of what you're looking for, is to feel like you can balance the head position and then assess how's the muscle tension. Now, as you practice your forms or your exercises, what you can do is you could sometimes place the attention on the top of your head, right on your crown, right? So you don't have to suspend it. You just simply put your attention up top there, right? So in Tai Chi, we say the spirit, resides up here or a little bit above. So you raise the spirit to this point, and that's going to affect the quality of your movement. I think you'll generally tend to feel a little lighter as you have more focus up here. Obviously, if we're thinking of the center and grounding, you're going to feel a little heavier, right? So it's also interesting to think of the back of your head, right? Because the back, in general, the space behind us is space that's generally out of our conscious awareness. So as you think of the back of your head, what you'll begin to feel is that your head will start to shift slightly backwards, and it will be a little more centered, right? So if you think of the space behind you, it's going to be the same phenomenon, right? So just feeling space behind you. So it's like if you're moving forward and you're walking, sometimes just kind of pay attention to what's behind you. You can listen, right? Because that gives you perception of spatial awareness, just as you can kind of see out of your peripheral vision. Or you could just kind of scratch the back of your head the same way I had you guys kind of tap the center, and then you have that temporary increased awareness of that region of yourself, and you can utilize it, right? Just as a basic experiment, put the focus your attention on your nose or the front of your face and turn the head And just do it really slowly and just observe your experience of turning the head. And then shift the attention to the back of the head. So as you turn your head, you're conscious of where that point of your head is moving in space. And you can feel that there's a difference, right? So if I'm turning and I'm thinking of the front, I find that I'm using a little more of these flexor muscles, right, as I turn. So if I focus more on the back of the head, it tends to inhibit this a little bit. And to me, it feels like my head is basically a little more centered over my spine as I do that. So those are some of the basic tips that I think can be useful, right, for learning how to balance your head. But again, just realize that you're already in your head too much as it is, right? So don't spend too much time worrying about where's your head, right? You can feel it from time to time. Make a subtle adjustment, notice the difference, and then move on to something else, because, if you keep focusing on it, I think it's going to make you crazy. All right, that's enough about the head talk. Thank you very much.